Welcome back to the channel. Today, thanks to this comment from Ryan, we'll be diving into the offseason and future prospects of the Minnesota Vikings. I'm considering turning this into a series and getting as many teams done as possible before the season starts. If you'd like your team to be done next, comment it down below and we'll see if it gets the most likes. Let's get into it. So, before we can look at the offseason and ahead, I like to look back at the last few years to see where the team is coming from. The Vikings have been a solid, middle-of-the-pack franchise really since 2000. In the 90s, they were far more consistent and rarely missed the playoffs. But since 2010, they've made the playoffs 4 times. They had a record of 2-4 in the playoffs, making the NFC Championship once and losing to the eventual champion Eagles. Ironically, that was under Case Keenum, and not their current $31 million man, Kirk Cousins. More on him later. Last season, the team went 8-9, finished second in a down-bad NFC North, and let their coach go. They have found a star in Justin Jefferson, who has picked right up where Stephon Diggs left off. Dalvin Cook has continued to be a stud lead back, and Adam Thielen hasn't dropped off even though people keep expecting him to. He missed 4 games last year but still had 10 touchdowns. The defense is really where they need to step it up. They finished 30th in the league in total defense, while their offense finished in 12th. I expect their offense to be able to stay the same or improve under Kevin O'Connell, who has experience working with Kirk Cousins from his Washington days, and hopefully the defense can get up to average. The Vikings are a solid team in a decent division, with a slightly above average quarterback, a pretty good defense, and one of the best fan bases on the planet. I say all of that to say, I think that their time is coming. The Vikings can take their rightful place as kings of the North. The Packers within the next 3 years will likely join the rest of us mortals in searching for a quarterback, something that they haven't had to do in the last 30 years. So, when that door cracks open, the Vikings need to be ready to bust through. What steps have they taken to be able to do that? Let's start with the staff. They hired KOC, who should be able to maintain or improve a talented offensive unit. Ed Donatel was brought on as the defensive coordinator, and he had the Broncos defense looking really good the last 2 years, finishing 8th overall last season in total yards. He should make an immediate impact on the defensive side of the ball. I'd give their hiring a 10 out of 10 before we see anything on the field. Next up, we have the players. They extended Kirk Cousins, which does a lot because he isn't worried about what will happen next year anymore. He can just play football and worry about the rest later. The biggest defensive impact player is Za'Darius Smith. Smith missed almost all of last season after having season-ending back surgery following Week 1. The 2 years prior, he recorded 12.5 and 13.5 sacks. If he can get back to 100%, suddenly you have a dynamic pass rushing duo with he and Danielle Hunter. The best part is, they were able to sign him away from the Packers. They also added Jordan Hicks to their linebacking core. He isn't a pass rusher per se, but has recorded over 100 tackles 3 seasons in a row now. He should be another veteran leader on the defense. They also added a couple depth pieces to defense in Harrison Phillips and Chandon Sullivan. I think they've set themselves up nicely to improve on that side of the ball. Moving ahead to the draft. The Vikings have the 12th overall pick. The consensus seems to be that they will go on the defensive side of the ball, as their O-line is pretty solid, and they have weapons on the outside with no real tight end prospect being worthy of a high pick. They'll likely either go pass rusher or corner. The top 3 corners are Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley Jr., and Trent McDuffie. I think Gardner is 100% gone, with Stingley possibly being gone as well. If Stingley slips, I think he's the pick. If he's gone, then they might look at a pass rusher to provide a third stud in the rotation with Smith and Hunter. George Karlaftis makes a lot of sense, as well as Jermaine Johnson, who is moving up a lot of boards. I'll be very interested to see what direction they go. I would also not be surprised if they trade back to acquire more draft capital, as it's a deep draft. Now, if the coaching staff can keep them in the top 12 for offense and reach the top 15 on defense, then this year they will likely win the NFC North, and in what might be a down year for the NFC, they could reach the conference championship. I still think it will be the Bucs versus Rams, but anything can happen once you get to the playoffs. I'm happy with where the Vikes are headed, and if you're a fan of the Purple People Eaters, you should be too. Skol Vikings! Thanks so much for watching, and if you made it this far, I hope you'll consider subscribing. I put out NFL content every Monday and Friday, and it looks like we've hit 100 subscribers too, so I'll be live streaming the first round of the NFL Draft and giving away $25 to one lucky subscriber. I hope you'll tune in and talk all things football with me. Until then, I'll see y'all next time.